Exactly. All right, good. Well, hi, Cara.
Hi.
Hi, it's good to see you. All right, so for everyone watching, and we don't know who's watching, this is both our first times really doing anything like this live on Substack. So, howdy. And there's other
Howdy.
platforms we're on, and I want to introduce everyone to Cara Matsukane, who is one of my favorite human beings. You know that, yes?
Yes, and you're one of my favorite.
I know that. We have a mutual admiration society. It's very good. It's quite healthy. Our spouses appreciate it very much. And just, huge fan of Cara's work. And it's directly in the sphere of mindful creativity that, I'm a big fan of. So, Cara, I'll just give you an opportunity. You should just introduce yourself, how you like to be introduced. And then we could dive right into like why you created the Creatrix and what it is and why people would be interested. And we'll get into all that. So,
Great.
who are you, Cara?
Who am I? Wow, that's quite a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I identify as a writer and a coach. I've been focusing more on writing lately, which has been really fun. I've been writing since I was young. I was an English major and have always loved reading and writing. So it's been really cool to focus more of my career on writing. And Substack has been an awesome platform for that. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And yeah, lately I've been identifying as a creatrix, which is a word that came to me as I was building my new ecosystem for my business. I don't even remember how I came across that word, but it just it really resonated with and captured like what the idea that I was trying to get across, which is a woman who's a creator, who partners with the divine to bring forth something new into the world.
The woman is a creator who partners with the divine to bring forth something new into the world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. It's good enough that I can even remember what you just said without having to figure it out. But I mean, look, so many people are talking gibberish, and have really long, involved answers that you have to sort of take apart. And well, what does that really mean? This is really sort of refreshingly straightforward.
Thank you. Well, I didn't invent that word. It just resonated with what I was talking about. So I'm really glad that that word exists.
It's good. And so tell me how it relates to, like, when I look at you and, our path, the intertwining paths that our lives have had with each other, that's, fits completely inside what, it's not a stretch. It's not like, oh, this is totally new for Cara, but the business itself is new.
Yeah, it's in a new phase, a new expression of itself. Because I've been, for probably about 3 years, I've been throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and have been, the way I described it in a piece that I wrote about this process is, it felt like I was in the dark. There was like a fog. I couldn't see, I couldn't see where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I was doing. I just kept putting stuff out there. So I was focusing first on wellness coaching, and then something took me into the realm of like supporting moms, because there's a lot of women in my life who are mothers and needed extra resourcing.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked with moms for a while. I had a year-long program for moms, learned a lot about motherhood and what moms struggle with and deal with and want and need. And there was something always slightly off about that focus for me, just because I'm not a mother yet. And I like to teach from my own experience. So although I could teach about emotional regulation and stress resilience and things like that from my experience, there was just always something a little bit off for me.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, it just, I've been trying to like walk back what happened, but the fog lifted and there was clarity and a path forward. And it felt like a download from the universe. And I've been kind of riding that wave for the past couple of months. And it's been an interesting process, because it's not like I'm always connected to this like lightning rod of inspiration. And I've noticed when I show up with devotion, which is how the creatrix and the mother archetypes create, is with love and devotion. When I show up every day at my altar, both my physical altar and my work altar, and just stay practicing, the inspiration comes way more frequently than if I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so talk to me about this expression of the business. Who's it for? Who's the, what kind of person's sitting around that, you're out to capture, that you could empower? Who's looking for this, and what's your
Sure.
plan?
Yeah. So the foundation of my business is in my Substack. So I have both a free version and a paid version. And it's anyone who would identify as a creatrix, or, that mother archetype is so closely intertwined with the creatrix, because they're both women who are bringing forth something into the world with devotion, partnering with the divine. And my content is really written for women who are creating, who want to make things, who want to make a better world, and believe, like I believe, that the access to a better and brighter future for us is not to resist or fight what we don't like right now in our reality, but to bring forth something completely new. And I really believe that the time for the feminine and the power of the feminine is here. And so, although I think both people who identify as male or female could be embodying what I'm talking about, there's something that really resonates for me in working with women. So I do have some men who subscribe to my Substack, but mostly I speak with women. So I have my Substack where I'm writing, I'm creating guides. Usually I post my guides on the new moon and full moon. It helps people connect with themselves, learn how to care for themselves, learn how to channel that divine energy, things like that. And then I also have a group program that I just started on the spring equinox called Coven, which is more geared towards like entrepreneurs, artists, creators, people who have like a specific project that they're bringing forth. It's like what I call it is sacred accountability structure. So we meet together to create intentions. We co-work together on Zoom. Say that again?
It's a nice. I like
Yeah, it's really cool. We have several women in there with different types of businesses, real estate agents, functional medicine practitioners, entrepreneurs, business owners. So it's people who have like a solo business but want community and want to create in a group of women. And we also connect with the divine on all of our different like co-working structures. We're connecting with the divine and creating that sacred space.
And what's the difference between who would be in Coven and who's a creatrix? I mean, there's an overlap for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Coven's probably more for people who have like a specific project that they're creating that is more maybe oriented towards business or work. Because I think the creatrix, I have a lot of women who subscribe to She Who Makes, which is my Substack publication, who are moms, who are creating a home, who are creating a family. And all of that content can and does resonate with them. But that might not be something that they would want to use Coven for unless they have a very specific home project that they wanted to use it for.
Right. We could use that for our kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is never going to get done.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of that too.
It's never going to fucking get done.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, then talk to me about that, because, what is it? What's the quality of the conversation that you're offering for people? We'll just say people, that male or female. I'm looking at, new moon, full moon. Those all really are feminine guides. They strike me as tapped into that. And, I feel you're leaning into that whole, feminine, not feminine. That's not the right word.
I think it's feminine. I mean, I'm reading this book right now called The Heroine's Journey, which is fantastic, by the way. It's, rewriting of the hero's journey for women in particular. And the journey starts with the woman rejecting the feminine and aligning herself more with masculine, which is more like external measures of success, her work life, being like a father's daughter. Even if she doesn't have a father, it's more about what she's focused on for the first part of her life. And then at a certain point, she climbs the corporate ladder, her career, whatever, and realizes she climbed the wrong ladder. So then there's this descent. She calls it the descent to the goddess. And during that descent process where she's starting to question everything she's been aligning with, she starts to turn inward towards herself. She starts to pay more attention to natural rhythms like lunar cycles, seasonal living, cyclical living, which is more feminine because we are cyclical. I mean, you know, we have a cycle.
I'm married, you know.
Yes, yeah. So I do think it is more feminine to align with those things. Not that I think men would benefit as well from living seasonally and cyclically.
Look, I mean, for sure, the, you know, the impact of the. It's funny too, because this is just a really. I don't have this conversation very often.
Sure.
I don't remember ever having this conversation. You know, and I live. You know, my wife is very much a living goddess in that way, and, you know, very tapped into this whole world, and, you know, her friends group or goddess groups, and just.
I mean, your wife is probably one of the first muses I had to get me on this path.
I'm very clear. I live with one of, you know, like a creatrix in a very real way. So I'm on the periphery of this conversation, and I am engaged in this conversation, and I'm certainly in favor of this conversation. But it's not my conversation.
Sure.
You know, I'm a product of the patriarchy. I'm in the patriarchy. I'm a patriarch. You know, and my energy is that energy. You know, I mean, How to Live a Grateful Life in a Fucked Up World is not a feminine take. Sure. Mindfulness, you know, and mindfulness itself is generally more softer than the patriarchy would like, you know, like, but I think from the patriarchy, I think from that world, you know,
we all do. Yeah.
Well, but to the degree to which I'm the source of it in a lot of ways, you're at the effect of it in more ways, right? There's more, sure. It's been glommed on to everyone because, you know, it's not unlike the right brain, left brain phenomena, conscious, subconscious kind of deal that, you know, has happened. And certainly, you know, I mean, I would like the women to get their shit together and burn this fucking thing down as soon as possible, because this is a fucking travesty of a life the patriarchy has produced over this number of years. There's very, you know, and there's a degree to which obviously, well, I don't know, obvious is the right word in there, but, you know, it's that balance, that Shiva Shakti balance, the balance between the masculine and the feminine. That's really is where life happens. This is not to denigrate masculinity as unnecessary or unimportant or, you know.
No, you're like totally the balance is necessary.
The balance is necessary, and it's been way out of whack. So, and my point was, getting into this was, I don't ever have this conversation. So far out of whack for me, and I'm even fairly in touch with it. You know, I live with it, but I don't. You know, in a million years, I wouldn't produce something and release it on the new moon and the full moon. It wouldn't even occur to me to do that. And it sounds totally authentic and natural. It doesn't sound, it clearly is. But, you know, I hear you say it. I'm like, oh, of course, the creatrix, you know, she who makes, that would be on that cycle. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the most natural thing in the world to have it be. And that's just a fascinating, and I think a really organic place to come from, you know, it's not layered on. It's not, well, what could I do that would admit, you know,
sure,
that would be made. Oh, I should do it on the moon. There, I capture that business. You know, there's nothing you know, what do you call premeditated about it? It's just an authentic expression of it. So for me, it's a really exciting conversation because this is a conversation not only do I not have, but I never think about.
Sure.
You know, so I love it. So, so just talk to me more about, you know, when you tap into that inspiration, because in my practice, you know, meditation and manifestation and that world of it, clearly tapping into inspiration, but where I come at it from is unlikely to be where you come at it from. So I'm just interested in, you know, your take on tapping into that creative divine energy and how you access it and how you work with people.
Great. So I think a big part for me that's like an undercurrent for most of my days is honing my intuition, which means that over the last several years, and I've done so many things. I've taken like a honing your intuition class, and read a lot of books and listened to podcasts and all that kind of thing. And the daily practice for me is just slowing down enough to connect with myself and be able to hear like what my body is saying or what my intuition is saying, and then acting on those things when they show up, which I didn't used to do. And then at a certain point, I started just letting it come out of my mouth most of the time. Like I'm with someone, it could even be a stranger, and I get like a download and I let it come out of my mouth. And I preface it sometimes with like, this might sound weird to you, but I just say it. And I don't think anyone's ever said to me, yeah, that was really weird. It's always like, how did you know? Yes, that is so spot on. That really resonates. So part of it for me is like practicing just like saying what I intuit. And then I get that validation over time of like, yeah, I was getting an authentic, like whatever it is, download, insight, whatever. So that's like the daily practice. And then I also have a ritualistic practice. Every morning I have in my office, actually, I have a little altar. And when I wake up, I drink a glass of water and then I kneel down in front of my altar and I say a very simple prayer, which is just, please guide my thoughts, my words, my actions today. Help me to do your will, not mine. And when I'm speaking, I'm both speaking to what I would call God, which is a way more expansive concept, I think, than the God of the Bible, or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I think probably the Bible is talking about the same thing, but it's universe, spirit, source energy, however you want to talk about that. I mean, I think all of us are God together, but I'm speaking to what my higher power is. I'm also speaking to my angels and guides, because I also believe that I have spirit guides and angels that are here to support me and help me along my path in a more close way and specific way for me and my journey. So I speak to them. I invite them to come into my life every day and like have an active hand. I ask them to help me be open to their guidance. And then I'll usually meditate for like 10 minutes. Sometimes I'll read, like I have a bunch of like spiritual books. So sometimes I'll read a daily reflection or something. And then I have a red light therapy mask that I'll put on, which lasts for 10 minutes, which has really helped my meditation practice. So vanity for meditation.
It's a timer. Yeah, there you go. Right. It's a timer and you can't do anything else doing it. And that's excellent. That's, hey man.
Yeah.
Structures that work.
So that's my like daily practice. And then now, especially with Coven, having accountability to show up on Sundays, we do sacred planning, like planning our week from our intentions. We do seasonal gatherings on the equinoxes and solstices. I try to honor the moon cycles. So we do a full moon ceremony in Coven. And then I try to do something for myself on the new moon where I'm setting intentions. Full moon is for reflecting and celebrating what you've harvested this month.
Fucking awesome. I mean, it's just it is really this whole ecosystem, Cara, that's organized around empowering that feminine energy. It's
reclaiming my, the witch, which I love being witchy. So yeah, it's really fun.
That's awesome. I freaking love it. You said this thing about cultivating your intuition, which is something I've been really interested in and have been playing around with the idea of doing a mindful manifestation work as an extension of the work that I've been doing. And, that tapping into intuition that, when I work with people or talk to people about it, and I would love to hear your take on it because you've done, I think, more reading about it than I have. These are all just practices that I fundamentally just made up because I think they work for me. So, if you hear it, but for sure saying what's there, but, if I think of calling someone, I call them. I think it's a question of honoring the voice. Like if I honor the voice, then the voice will say more to me, and it usually shows up for me like, it's a little cold, should bring a jacket. And then immediately my louder voice goes, no, fuck that. It's not that cold. Right. Or I don't have time for that. I'm not going back in the house like that. Oh, you know, did you bring your headset? I don't need my headset. What do I need my headset for? I'm not going anywhere that needs a headset. And then fucking 90 times out of 100, I need my headset for something. And the little voice told me to go get it. And I blew it off, you know. Sometimes it's like, you should take out that trash. I'm like, really? You should fucking take out the trash? But it's an intuitive hit, and I don't know where it's going to lead. And I don't really even care so much where it's going to lead as much as I want that voice to be heard. I want it to consider itself.
Like you said, I think it does show up more when you validate it. And I actually have a note in my iPhone notes app called evidence. And I capture any evidence of magic, intuition. The universe is conspiring to fulfill my intentions, so that I'm focusing on it and keeping track of it.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Oh yeah, evidence.
Yeah,
love it. Because you know, it takes nothing to build evidence for
exactly. Yes.
Takes no special skills required.
There's a lot of evidence that's just in your face already for that.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm definitely taking that on. That's very cool. All right, so people work with you, and what are the engagements like? And
so if I'm doing like, so my ecosystem includes the writing on Substack, which is like the lowest connection point, I guess, and then group for Coven, which I have 12 women every season. And then I do offer one-on-one coaching. I'm offering that in a more limited capacity now. But I'll either do like one-on-one wake-up calls, which is just a one-off, like you need something specific. It's more intuitive coaching, because that's the part of coaching that I think is my biggest gift, and where people find the most value is I'm giving you those downloads that I get for you. I have this way of being able to almost like sense people's perspective of reality that's unique to them, and offering that to them. And that usually has something kind of click into place for them, because it gives them words to an experience that they haven't been able to name. And then I do offer like more longer term one-on-one coaching containers. And those are very customized. Like I have someone right now I'm working with, she's a mom of 3 kids, and she wanted to focus on what she's calling insourcing, which is instead of like outsourcing her wisdom to other experts, she wanted to learn how to hone her intuition, especially in motherhood. And how do I determine what's best for the health and wellness of my family? So we've been practicing. First, we were working on her emotional regulation and her physical wellness, because it's really hard to hear your intuitive nudges if you're sleep deprived or undernourished or anything like that. And then, she's starting to capture any intuitive nudges she gets that she acts on. She'll text them to me. She's doing a lot of interoception work, which is being in touch with how you're feeling inside, your body's cues and things like that. So that was a customized container I created for her. We meet twice a month. And then I also am going to potentially be working. I have a discovery call with a woman who wants to work on her partnership, her romantic partnership and relationship to herself, and uncovering some of those patterns that happen in relationships. So we're talking about that next week. I've worked with a woman who wanted to alter the patterns that kept showing up for her in her workplace. She was also a mom, and she kept running into the same pattern at work. So we did a lot of deep diving into her childhood, some incomplete and traumatic events that happened throughout her childhood that she was kind of repeating in adulthood. So we unpacked a lot of that. I supported her in doing some inner child healing work and creating new ways of being and acting now. So I think that was a 6-month coaching container with her. So when I create a custom coaching container, I think 6 months is probably the least amount of time I'd want to spend with someone, just because it takes time to unpack that stuff and work on the patterns and everything.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm so delighted, Cara. That's just so, and you can hear, I'm sure you can hear, the work you did with moms is feeding directly into what you're now making available for these women. And and in a way that uses all the resources you have, as you know, the work that you've done, you know, in the past, as in businesses, and that whole, it feels like this is I don't know, but a complete use of your skill set.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And I think that's another piece of being a Creatrix, is like trusting. It didn't always make sense why I was doing what I was doing at the time. Like, I didn't know how it would serve me in the future, but I think it's like trusting those breadcrumbs that you're given. And yes,
that's the
if
intuitive
it's a yes,
sense, you know,
follow it.
Go back and get your keys.
Yeah.
That's right. This has been, you know, so much is lost. So much is lost when people try and figure out beyond the next step. You know, there's nothing beyond the next step. How could you even pretend to have 2 steps planned? You don't know how this step is going to go, but you won't know until you take this step, which is why there's no wrong step. You can't make a mistake.
I know. I think that's like the #1 thing for people who are trying to enter into entrepreneurship or who are feeling stuck with it, is you just have to start taking steps, and then clarity comes after you start walking. You don't start walking after clarity. Yeah.
That's right. And because there's nothing to get clear about. You haven't seen anything. You haven't done anything. You can't see what you're going to see from where you sit. You got to take that action. Now you can say, oh, I can see now that was this direction. Now I need to go this. It wasn't even like I went in the wrong direction. You know, the heroine, it's like the tale. She didn't climb the wrong ladder. She climbed the ladder she climbed. And now she can see, oh, wait, there's
she
another
needs to
ladder.
descend, so she had to climb. Yeah. Totally.
That's right.
I think that's where the partnership with the divine and trusting that, it's like a complete trusting relationship where you're surrendered to that. You can't see, they can see, whatever that is. And you're walking forward with their guidance. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. That's excellent. All right. Well, is there anything else you want people to know about what you're up to, or anything else you wanted to talk about we didn't cover?
I don't think so. I think, you know, you can just check out my Substack. That's where all the good stuff happens. And I have a bunch of guides. I actually have a free guide for opening the channel to the divine.
Oh, cool.
That's my most popular post, and it's free. It has a guidebook. So you can download that for free.
Excellent. And they find you at She Creates. What is it? She Who Makes?
Oh, you can do caramatsukane.substack.com, and She Who Makes is the name of my publication.
Great.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, Cara, I love you. I'm delighted that we got to do this, and we made it through without lip syncing anything. So
yeah, Wes will be happy we didn't.
Wes will be very happy that we didn't lip sync anything. Okay.
Thanks for having me. I love you too.
I love you too.
Right.
Hang on. Don't go.